the railway lacks the punctuality, reliability, and it is rather overcrowded. Now, at the moment, our railway caters much for the lower income groups, but we should cater for the higher income groups also. We are not actually serving the modern day man, to tell you frankly. I mean, people would like to know from their home what time the train is coming to the nearest station, and at this particular moment, where is the train?
So you think electrification can be the catalyst for modernizing this network?
My opinion is that railway should carry as a government department, all right, but it should be a separate entity.
Hello and welcome to the IESL series of podcasts on transport issues in Sri Lanka. Today we will be looking at the railways in Sri Lanka. And to discuss this, we have with us Mr. Priyal Silva, former General Manager of the Sri Lanka Railways and also a past President of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. Welcome to the program, Priyal.
Thank you.
Now, Railways, Priyal, has performed very strategic roles in the development of nations, particularly in the 19th century and going on to the 20th century. And Sri Lanka also is vastly different because of the role the railways played at that time. So my question is now, is that role over? Is there still a continuing role for the railways in Sri Lanka? Now, I ask this particularly because the mode share for both passengers and freight has kept coming down. And this is not unusual because with the advent of road transport across the world, many countries have seen the ridership in the railways decline. And we see that in larger, geographically larger countries and in continents where cross-border traffic is possible, the railways are continuing to play a very vital role, particularly in freight transport. So given that we are a geographically small country, an island, and well, yet not connected to even the Indian subcontinent, is there really hope for the railways going forward?
Yes, Professor. Before 1975, we were having a modal share of about close upon 25 to 30% of passenger transport. Actually, as you say, it's really good if we can have cross-border mobility. But nevertheless, our network carries a significant area of Sri Lanka. Only thing is, except the fact that we have closed down some lines just before independence and after independence, that is up to Opanayaka, then Yatiyantota, and also to Ragala. And also we are not serving some of the passenger corridors like Piliyandara, Horana, and maybe Ingiriya, and also the other side, Battaramulla to Kaduvala. Having said that, I think we are generally okay with regard to the network area, but only thing is the railway lacks the punctuality, reliability, and it is rather overcrowded. Now, when a person comes to the railhead or the station, he needs a train to come within a few minutes, right? And maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then also once he gets into the train, he wants to get to his destination on scheduled time. But now, with that respect, railway must consider more on the punctuality, reliability, and also he must have a comfortable journey and therefore less overcrowding in trains.
So what you're saying, Priyal, is that with respect to the network, the railway is not badly positioned vis-a-vis many other cities and countries.
Exactly.
It can do better, of course.
Yes.
But the priority now is actually to provide a more user-friendly service to the passengers.
In order to attract the passengers.
So what is the main barrier? And often And there's a lot of public complaint about the service, different aspects of the service. As you mentioned, reliability, lack of modernization in the carriages at the stations. We are in the 21st century, and railway almost exhibits like characteristics of 50 years earlier or so. So should that be a priority, or should we be running more trains, or is it more that the service characteristics need to be upgraded? Are these the barriers, or are there yet other barriers that prevent these reliable services?
Yeah, there are many barriers. Of course, one thing is, of course, as you say, correctly told, we are not actually serving the modern day man, to tell you frankly. So the railway should actually digitalize their services with regard to the passenger services, the automated ticketing system, then the public information system. I mean, people would like to know from their home what time the train is coming to the nearest station, and at this particular moment, where is the train, right, and so forth. And also, when you get into the train, on board information should be there. What are the connecting trains at the destination station, and so forth. Now, these either should be on the railway website, or it should be on TV channels for people to know.
What exactly is the barrier? Is it that there is a lack of innovation on the part of management, or is it that there is not enough funding, or is it because there is an overall lack of expectation in terms of government policy that the railway can actually deliver this?
Actually, Professor, it's like this. First of all, the focus should be to run the department as a commercialized department in order to serve the public.
So there is a management barrier also.
Management barrier also, as well as there's a funding barrier also.
There's a funding barrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the two things that which should be overcome in order to provide some sort of a service which will definitely attract more passengers to the railway.
Yeah. So I remember doing a review for the Treasury actually on the capital allocations within the transport sector. And we found that over the last decade or so, 83% of the capital allocation was for highways. And the committee recommended that this should be brought down to 60% to develop a multimodal transport network, and to increase the railway share, I believe, to 15%. But even this year's budget, I believe the railways is still getting only less than 15%. So my question is, if, say, for next year, we get a paradigm shift in the perspective of the government and say, like many other countries have done, railways is important, we want to modernize this, we want to position this for various purposes, for reducing congestion, for decarbonizing, for economic efficiency, we will reposition the railway within our transport sector. If the government allocated double the capital for 2026, where do you think the railway needs to prioritize the spending?
Yes, Professor. Now, it's like this. Now, railway has not actually received enough funds for its annual consumption of materials and equipment and spare parts. That is the true story of it.
So in other words, there is a maintenance lag, a deficit.
Maintenance deficit. There's a backlog of items which where the engines require some repairs, maybe overhauls, and track requires some sleepers and rails, which are not got over the years, which they have not received over the years.
Your point is that because of this deficit in maintenance budgets, the railway cannot actually deliver on-time schedules, and there are breakdowns and things like that.
Exactly.
So that's where the money should go first, to bring it to
some sort of a level,
some standard.
Some standard
Okay.
where they should be able to give some adequate service, some reasonable service to the public. Right. So from that point onwards, railway should develop further. Right. Now, that is my opinion. And actually, to tell you very frankly, I mean, annually for the railway track itself, the railway requires 7,513 meter rails. and 50,000 sleepers and about 200,000 meter cube of ballast. Right. Now, the locomotive side also, there are so many locomotives which are stopped because of spare parts are not available for overhauls. Right. So those are the issues that the railway is facing at the moment. So in addition to that, there should be some sort of commercialization at stations, because today when a person comes to the station, it's a sort of a one-stop for him. He should be able to purchase his groceries or some sort of things before he goes home. That commercialization aspect is not come into the main stations. Then also, especially now, if you are going to attract, now at the moment, our railway caters much for the low income groups, but it should not be so. We should cater for the high income groups also, and mainly the road user should be transferred to the rail.
Actually, when you look at countries, many countries in Europe, that is exactly what they do. They almost cater to people who, they compete with the airlines. And people who would otherwise take the cars. And many of those railways are subsidized, particularly for passenger transport, because those governments see the benefits of decongesting the roads, reducing energy consumption, pollution and accidents and so on and so forth. So if Sri Lanka were to revive the railways for, let's say, more passengers, what are the types of passenger services you think should be developed in the first instance?
Yeah. Now, actually, one other thing that I want to tell you was, although railway is fuel efficient than other modes of transport, I must say they are not energy efficient. Right. Now, one thing is, with the present trend, I think they should go for electrification, because most of some countries have gone over the electrification. They have gone to hydrogen cells also now.
Even India, I believe.
Even in India, yes.
Correct.
So that is one aspect that I think I am trying to focus on, that they should immediately try to do the electrification. Suburban railways, at least, from Pulgahavala to Panadura or Kadutara, and on the Nigambu line, and maybe on the Kaldi Valley line. Yeah. So
modernizing the urban network, suburban network. We have 4 lines. So you think electrification can be the catalyst for modernizing this network? Because I believe about 60% of the passengers are carried in this area, or probably even more than that.
Yes, I think it's a little more than that. Right. But definitely, that particular network within those cities come as priorities.
Right. So that's for almost commuter urban rail.
Commuter urban rail.
Outside of that, what's the potential? I mean, is there really a need to invest on long distance travel or on the tourism side? I mean, recently tourism, there's an attraction for the tourists to use the railways. Is that a direction to go? Should we be actually working in that area?
We should be working in that particular area, because actually we should take maximum use of this particular trend where the tourists are using the train now. So you have to try to develop that. Now, what I'm saying is now that value addition and giving more facilities to the tourists in the train, even though the railway cannot do it by themselves, they must try to get public partnership. Public-private partnership to come in and get the private sector to tackle that issue.
Right. This should be part of what you suggested as the management change.
The management change.
So most railways overseas have come a long way in terms of diversifying its ownership, its management capabilities. But whereas Sri Lanka Railway has remained as a government department, fairly constrained in what it has done now almost over a century. So as the last question virtually, I want to go to freight. Now, many countries run passenger trains at a loss. They are unprofitable. I think there are only 1 or 2 examples, contrary to that trend. In terms of freight, most countries make a profit. And many countries cross-subsidize these two. Now, Sri Lanka, back when it was called Ceylon, we thrived on freight transport.
Yes.
And that was the main source of revenue. Yeah. And I believe in the 1950s, with sort of urbanization and road competition, with trucks taking on, the tea and the rubber transport, etc., there was a shifting of emphasis to passengers, particularly the urban passengers and so on and so forth. And it appears that we have almost abandoned the freight. I mean, we do carry but it's still less than 1%, I think, of the national volume. I mean, do you think it was a mistake on the part of government and the railways to concentrate almost entirely on passenger transport and not kept up with at least a fair share of freight? Because today, it's almost like it appears the railway has given up on this, and that is one way of actually making the losses more tolerable. Is it too late, or is there no hope for the future, or is that something we should just give up?
It's not too late. Actually, this entire thing started changing after 1977 with the open economic policy, where people were allowed to import prime movers and various equipment for freight transport, container transport. So with that, especially ours being it's a small, comparatively a small country, although earlier we were transporting by rail, I mean, they thought that why we should go for rail, there's double handling involved. So therefore, they want to transport from the origin to destination in one door to door in one mode of transport. So only thing is, this not all that economical when you go to see on the long run. So what I feel is we should actually, at the moment, of course, we are actually transporting mainly, railways transporting mainly petroleum, then cement, flour, and fertilizer.
Correct.
Other than that, I mean, other competitors are very, very less. Now, what I suggest is, now with regard to parcel transport, today nobody will want to bother himself coming to the station head, putting his parcel, giving his parcel over to the SM, pay the money, and at the other end to receive it. I feel that what the railway should embark on is get a freight forwarder to collect the parcel at the doorstep of the customer or the client. Then he will bring it to the railhead, transport, and deliver also at the other end.
There's one party responsible.
One party responsible in that thing, and that way I think you should. Then the next thing is, of course, the unique commodities like, as I told you about the cement, flour, and all that. Now, earlier we were having sidings to many of these places. For example, Lunavilla Koya siding was there, then Parantan Chemicals was there, Vanachini Paper Corporation siding was. Now all these have been closed. Now I feel that all these things should be open. Even there was a fertilizer siding at Valikama. All those things should be.
Not to mention the ports all being
I'm coming
close to the railways.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Yeah, so then all these things should be once again open. And then, of course, those unit commodities must be transported. Then, with regard to the container transport, actually, what you say is perfectly correct. The port line is only open when there's some equipment and some locomotives come to the railway. Then only they go repair that line, go to the port, collect those things, and bring it to the yard. Now, it should not be so. Actually, most of the containers which come, especially the transshipment containers, which come to the port, ports should be given more space in the port area for the transshipment containers to be unloaded, right? And other containers must be quickly taken out of the port, for which I suggest that there should be internal container depot, ICD facilities. So in the 2011, there was a Roughton report where the ICD should be put at Telangapata, that is close to Vanavasara, and another one at Ratmalana, so that trains could collect the containers and take to the ICDs, and from the ICDs the prime movers can collect it and take to the destination. And of course, there is one aspect, the north entrance to the port from Karaniya side is actually encroached. That should be also open for quick transport. So those are the issues that railway is facing. Those things should be done, and I think if that can be done, still our container transport can be increased definitely.
So I think we've had a fairly in-depth conversation on the primary issues facing the railways. Of course, at the grassroots level, at the passenger level, at the freight forwarder level, there are many practical issues. But I believe you would have understood that unless these policy issues, these institutional establishment issues are sorted out, it's unlikely the railway will be able to circumvent these issues completely. So I would like to thank Mr. Priyal de Silva for having shared his insights with us today. And I hope that you have learned something fresh about the railways and its future.